In Jujutsu Kaisen, Choso, Esso, and Kechizu cannot be neatly classified into any single category. They are neither human nor fully cursed spirits, but rather special-grade cursed objects, known as the death-painting wombs, hybrid entities born from a grotesque fusion between humans and cursed spirits. What truly sets these three brothers apart is not merely their power, but the extreme nature of their blood bond. They exist for one another, fight for one another, and are willing to sacrifice everything to protect their siblings. More intriguingly, the concept of the death paintings is not purely fictional. In Buddhism, it originally refers to imagery depicting the 9 stages of a corpse's decomposition, symbolizing impermanence and the grotesque fragility of the human body. Gege Akutami's decision to draw upon this motif for the death-painting wombs clearly carries profound thematic implications. The origin of the death paintings dates back to the early Meiji era. At that time, there existed a woman with an abnormal constitution. She possessed the ability to conceive children with cursed spirits. This ability led to her being ostracized by society and treated as a monster. While fleeing from her family, she sought refuge at a temple and encountered a man who appeared extraordinarily kind. Tragically, that man would later become the individual most directly and brutally connected to the fate of the death paintings. All 9 fetuses born from this union possessed cursed energy far beyond normal standards. Afterward, every record related to the death paintings was erased from history. No one knows exactly what transpired, only that for over 150 years, the death painting wombs were sealed at Tokyo Jujutsu High. Among them, individuals numbered 1 through 3 were classified as special grade, while numbers 4 through 9 were ranked lower. The true tragedy began during the Kyoto Tokyo Goodwill Event. A group of cursed spirits, driven by human extinction ideology, infiltrated the school and stole the first 3 death paintings. Through the ritual of Incarnation, they created 3 complete beings: Choso, Esso, and Kechizu, brothers with independent bodies and consciousness. Their appearances directly reflect the degree of compatibility between the cursed object and its vessel. Choso, the eldest, appears almost entirely human, while Kechizu, the youngest, visibly retains the form of a cursed spirit. This disparity stems from the vessel's tolerance. The higher the compatibility, the less distorted the form. It is important to note, however, that these appearances are not their original forms. The death paintings fundamentally exist as fetuses, yet they themselves regard these incarnated bodies as their true human forms. Among them, Choso is the most complete and powerful individual. He possesses a tall, imposing build, twin braids standing upright, and a handsome face marked by a distinctive pattern running across the bridge of his nose. His personality is calm and cold, yet he harbors an almost absolute devotion to his younger brothers, despite fully understanding that the cursed spirit faction was untrustworthy. Choso chose to cooperate with them, believing that a world ruled by cursed spirits would be safer for his brother's existence. That said, Choso never considered himself a loyal subordinate. The only ones for whom he would risk his life are Esso and Kechizu. Toward everyone else, including humans, he is utterly indifferent, and therefore feels no guilt when killing. His greatest weakness lies precisely in this emotional bond. The moment his brothers are insulted or looked down upon, he instantly loses his composure. Choso's cursed technique, blood manipulation, is an inherited technique of the Kamo clan, one of the 3 great Jujutsu families. Mechanically, the technique allows for complete control over blood, enabling both physical enhancement and long-range blood-based attacks. However, blood manipulation carries a fatal drawback. The user must consume their own blood. Excessive use can result in severe blood loss or even death, not to mention the risk of acute thrombosis. For this reason, Kamo clan sorcerers typically carry blood packs to sustain prolonged combat. Choso's absolute advantage lies in his nature. As a death-painting womb, he can directly convert cursed energy into blood. As long as his cursed energy is not depleted, his blood supply continuously regenerates. This allows Choso's blood manipulation to reach a near-perfect state, completely eliminating the risks faced by ordinary users. Moreover, through the blood that binds them, he can sense the life, death, or transformation of his blood relatives. In terms of specific techniques, piercing blood is a long-range attack that fires blood at extreme speed to slice through targets, possessing enough power to sever a human body with ease. Choso once used this technique against Gojo Satoru, only for it to be neutralized with a single hand, a detail that does not diminish the technique's strength, but instead highlights Gojo's absurd superiority. In close combat, Choso employs flowing red scale, manipulating the blood within his body to enhance his physical abilities. Blades formed from blood are maintained through high-speed circulation. Rather than fixed weapons, they function like highly flexible projectiles, making them extremely unpredictable in close-range combat. The most fearsome ultimate technique of blood manipulation is supernova. Compression refers to the extreme condensing and refinement of blood, while piercing involves firing that compressed mass like an arrow. Reinforced by cursed energy, the projectile can reach supersonic speeds, fast and powerful enough to pierce an opponent in an instant. Itadori Yuji once nearly lost both arms to this technique. Beyond that, Choso can also use compression to suspend condensed blood in midair before detonating it, creating a wide-area attack akin to a blood bomb. This application serves both as direct offense and as a tactical trap, particularly lethal in confined spaces. Additionally, Choso possesses another variation, firing hardened blood projectiles. While these have high durability, they are inferior to piercing blood in speed and power, and significantly increase the risk of thrombosis, making them rarely used. However, during his battle with Itadori in a Shibuya restroom, where splashing water made blood compression difficult, Choso cleverly employed this technique as a concealed projectile launched from his palm. The surprise attack pierced Itadori while he was off guard, demonstrating Choso's adaptability and terrifying ruthlessness in real combat. Esso is a death-painting womb with the physique of a muscular strongman, his bulging muscles usually exposed as he wears nothing more than a T-shaped loincloth. Despite his revealing and somewhat grotesque appearance, which easily leads others to misunderstand him, Esso's true nature is the complete opposite. He is polite, composed, and maintains proper manners even when facing an enemy. From the front, Esso looks almost like an ordinary human. However, on his back exists a gigantic face that constantly weeps tears of blood. Because of this grotesque abnormality, Esso is forced to dress in minimal clothing, as ordinary garments would make the face on his back feel suffocated. This deformity is also the source of Esso's greatest insecurity. Before entering combat, he often warns his opponents not to look at his back. If that warning is ignored, his suppressed fury erupts, accompanied by an overwhelming killing intent. The stench surrounding Esso comes from the fact that the face on his back is perpetually festering. He has no memories of his mother, nor does he harbor deep hatred toward humanity. In fact, during one encounter with Nobara, Esso bluntly stated that if she withdrew and did not interfere, he would spare her life. This detail demonstrates that Esso is not the type of cursed spirit who indiscriminately slaughters the innocent, but rather an existence governed by principles and a clear sense of boundaries. In terms of strength, Esso ranks second among the three brothers. Influenced by the bloodline of Kamunori, he also possesses the ability to manipulate blood. Unlike his eldest brother, however, Esso focuses on toxicity and corrosive effects rather than direct destructive power. His primary technique, Rot Technique, is a decomposition-type curse technique that uses highly corrosive blood to gradually destroy the opponent's body. This is not an instant-killing move, but a prolonged form of torture that becomes increasingly dangerous over time. Esso can also shape his blood into wing-like forms on his back, using the corrosive flow to pursue targets at high speed, essentially equivalent to an attack with concentrated acid. However, the effectiveness of this technique is heavily dependent on range. Once the opponent escapes the area of influence, its lethality drops significantly. Decay is a linked technique that Esso and Kechizu can activate together. As long as one of them initiates it, the effect immediately propagates. The poisonous blood that invades the target corrodes flesh while leaving rose petal-like patterns on the wounds. Although it causes excruciating pain, Decay cannot kill instantly unless it affects the entire body. Against Itadori, who possesses an abnormal resistance to poison, this technique was little more than a method of torment. Additionally, Decay cannot be used simultaneously with Wing King, forcing Esso to be extremely cautious in choosing his timing and tactics. Kechizu is the youngest of the three death-painting wombs, and also the one whose appearance deviates the furthest from humanity. At a glance, it is immediately clear that he is a pure cursed spirit. His face bears two mouths, one large, one small, both constantly leaking blood. This deformity stems from Kechizu's weakness as a cursed object. His power is too limited to completely erase the human vessel's traits, resulting in a distorted, half-formed appearance. In stark contrast to his terrifying looks, Kechizu possesses a childlike, naive personality. His speech and movements are immature and clumsy, and he often acts on instinct rather than reason. In battle, whenever he is pushed into a disadvantage, Kechizu almost unconsciously seeks out his older brother, clearly displaying his dependence both mentally and in terms of strength. Although classified as a special-grade cursed spirit, Kechizu is the weakest among the three brothers. His actual combat ability is only comparable to a single finger of Sukuna, a massive disparity when measured against his rank. Kechizu's powers also involve poisonous blood, but only to a very limited extent. He does not even possess a complete cursed technique of his own. The toxicity of his blood is far weaker than Esso's, insufficient to corrode or dissolve hard substances, such as stone. As a result, in real combat, Kechizu is forced to rely on Esso's Rot Technique to make effective use of his abilities, serving more as a support than a frontline combatant. At a deeper level, the concept of the cursed womb, death painting in Jujutsu Kaisen, is directly inspired by a famous Japanese Buddhist artwork known as the 9 Stages of Decay, Kusozu. This series depicts 9 stages in the decomposition of a corpse abandoned in the wild. In the earliest stage, the body still retains a human form. Over time, however, it begins to fester, rot, and eventually collapse into flesh and blood. This parallel is clearly reflected in the three brothers. Choso, the eldest, possesses an appearance that is almost entirely human, symbolizing the stage immediately following death. Esso, the second brother, still maintains a humanoid form, but signs of necrosis have already begun to appear on his back, corresponding to the early phase of decomposition. Kechizu, with his grotesque shape and a body that appears to be disintegrating, represents a far more advanced stage of decay, one in which the boundary between inside and outside no longer exists. For this reason, the core message of the 9 stages of decay does not lie in horror itself, but in its warning to humanity. It forces the living to confront the inevitable fate of the physical body, thereby awakening them from desire and attachment. Through the imagery of a decomposing corpse, people are reminded of the fundamental Buddhist truth of impermanence. Even more intriguingly, in Buddhism, the 9 stages of decay actually consist of 10 images. The 10th depicts the deceased as they were while still alive, the state before decay begins. Jujutsu Kaisen incorporates this detail as well. That image of life is none other than Itadori Yuji. In essence, Itadori Yuji himself is a form of the cursed womb, death painting, born through Kenjaku's possession of Yuji's mother and the subsequent creation of his body. From the moment of his birth, Yuji was designed as an ideal vessel, with the ultimate purpose of housing Ryomen Sukuna, the most dangerous cursed spirit in history. Although Yuji possesses the outward appearance of an ordinary human, 2 distinct bloodlines coexist within his body, making him a being that exceeds normal biological standards. This hybrid foundation grants him an abnormal physique and overwhelming physical strength, even before acquiring a personal curse technique. This is most evident during his battle with Choso, where Yuji is able to withstand the toxicity of the blood manipulation technique, something that would kill most opponents, while suffering almost no severe consequences. At their core, Yuji and the death paintings share the same defining trait. All of them are products of experimentation. For this reason, Yuji can also be considered a younger brother among the death paintings. In the past, he was completely unaware of this truth. Thus, while he appreciated Choso's protection, Yuji could never fully understand the strange bond between them. Once the truth was revealed, however, all misunderstandings were finally resolved. The two brothers set aside the past, stand on the same battlefield, and prepare to face their greatest shared enemy. And with that, this analysis of the cursed womb death paintings comes to a close. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to support us. Turn on notifications so you won't miss future uploads. Goodbye, and see you next time.